Here's your TLDR for the DAO release. Proposals are now live on the govern.startatlas.com website. Currently, proposals and voting will be on the Govern website. However, all discussions will be in Discord, and those channels are live too. You have to have the PvP role to have discussions, so make sure that you connect to Matrika to get that role. Currently, they're going to be looking at any proposals that are treasury related, but over time, you can include partnerships, brand-related decisions, decisions that affect gameplay design, and local politics. Dom shared the important dates in Discord, and voting for PIPs 1 and 2 actually starts today. PIP number 1 is setting a precedence for how all PIPs should be moving forward. How to draft a PIP, how it's reviewed, submitted, and voted on, the foundation and the actions that are needed to implement a PIP, the on-chain decision-making process, types of PIPs that can be submitted, and when the council is in place, they'll review the PIPs that are submitted and determine what gets voted on. Once the council reviews it, the foundation has to sign off on it, and then it goes into a pending state where you can see it on the Govern website, but you can't vote on it just yet. From there, it's moved to voting with a start and an end date. If it's an up or a down vote, then it just depends on the majority vote. If it's a ranked choice vote, then it depends on the proposal how many choices get through. The default voting time is 2 weeks, but then it depends on the proposal. And then a successful proposal will be sent to the foundation for implementation. If it is deemed unsafe, then the foundation has veto power. So what is the foundation? That's described in PIP 2. Some questions from the chat. Your polis voting power is not spent whenever you make a vote. And we can all submit proposals to change the treasury asset management. Currently, there's no minimum PvP needed for a vote, so that might be something that the community wants to add into PIP 1. PIP 2 is the foundation. This describes how decisions are implemented at the end of the day. They're there to implement, improve, and sustain the aspects of the Star Atlas metaverse and the ecosystem. Ultimately, the council will be delegated to manage these processes. It's set up in the Cayman Islands, and it has basic fees to carry out the early implementations of the proposals. Right now, it's one person, and for privacy reasons, he prefers not to be named publicly, but it is registered and there are public records associated with that registration, and he's an attorney. Project management for the PIP pipeline is based on the community. There are a lot of questions about the foundation and PIP 2, and people are already hoping that revisions are going to be made. PIP 3 is the first term of the council. It's not going up until PIP 1 and 2 are approved, but it's going to be a 6-month term for 5 council members. They'll get a special role in Discord to manage the discussions surrounding the PIPs, their ideas, and the drafting process. They're the first line of feedback to revise and refine ideas, and they recommend the PIPs to the foundation once they're ready for submission. They're not yet defining the second term of the council, but there will be future terms, and the first few months of feedback are instrumental in determining what the future of the council looks like, whether they need more seats, rolling terms, more or less duties. This PIP describes the eligibility, still following the Star Atlas terms of service. There's a nomination process where you can self-nominate, a couple weeks of a campaign period, and then the vote will go live. If there are more than 20 nominations, there will be 2 rounds of voting, first narrowing down to 12 candidates and then down to the 5. And if everything goes smoothly, then we will have our first council members in September. There were a few community members who already put their hands up for nominations. The initial term is not compensated. They want people to help shape the governance process, so they want people who are interested in providing direct feedback and to help come up with a more elaborate system. If the DAO thinks there needs to be a greater incentive in the future, then they can consider it at that point. But the initial idea is that it's not a full-time position. Council members are supposed to be as impartial as possible. Their role is to help people through the governance process. Council elections will be ranked choice voting, so you can select from a list and rank as many as you want. It will apply your PvP to your first viable candidate. If your top selection has no chance of winning, then your PvP will go to your second choice. This ensures that you don't waste your vote. The council does not have any special voting privileges. They just provide initial feedback on the drafts. While the initial term is 6 months, there are currently no term limits, but that can be put in a PIP. From the ideas stage, it's still on the author to write the draft of the proposal, but the feedback from the council will help determine what moves it forward. PIPs will be assigned to council members for review, but the idea is that the council will early on write its own rules and procedures. There There are already questions for PIP 3, like what happens if a council member steps down or gets barred from it. Wagner then came on to talk about whether the DAO is for-profit or nonprofit. So the foundation is there to represent the DAO for any legal matters, but Wagner envisions the DAO to be a for-profit entity. The primary objective of the DAO should be to grow the ecosystem, but the byproduct of that is that it also generates new revenue streams for the DAO. PIP 4 is for the ecosystem fund. This is also going live after PIPs 1 and 2 are approved. This PIP sets aside 20% of the DAO treasury to build the Star Atlas ecosystem or anything to overall improve the experience in and out of the game. It will be regularly topped up with 20% of the Atlas. USDC will also be used, but there needs to be a baseline to make sure that the DAO has a certain amount to cover costs. The funding application process is just like the PIP process. People will submit PIPs explaining what they're trying to build or develop, milestones, deliverables, budget requests, and when it goes live, people can vote. Once the ecosystem fund is created, people will always be able to seek funding. There are a few questions for PIP 4, but I'd say not as much discussion yet because PIP 4 won't go through until PIP 1 and 2 are approved. Signal came on to ask 2 questions. He asks if there's going to be a framework for publicly recording the discussions that happen with the council. The team responded that they want full transparency and it's part of the process, which comes next. He's also concerned that the council role might be a very contentious position because the council can not move PIPs forward. He asks if there are any social protections that come with this role. So the goal for the council is to follow an objective process. Discord rules still apply, but if you do run for council, just know that you will become a big voice for the community. So that's something to take into consideration. They then went through the life cycle of a PIP. It's a 12-step process. First, a member submits an idea. This is where they gain buy-in from other community members. Once it gets feedback and support, they'll fill out a form, and then it goes to the PIP's draft channel where a council member will be assigned. It's then discussed and approved or rejected by the council. If it's approved, then it goes to the foundation for approval or rejection. If that's approved, then it goes up for voting and discussion in the PIP discussion threads. And if it's approved from there, then it goes back to the foundation for implementation. Until the council is elected, the community team and Dan are going to act as standing council members. And to answer Signal's question, the council will review PIPs in a public way. They haven't figured out the frequency, but there's going to be a council stage. This is where they will review proposals and state why it's either approved or rejected. If you want to submit a proposal, make sure that you check the previous ideas so you don't propose something that's already been proposed. Voting goes live today, so make sure that you read through the proposals, check the discussions, and vote. That's it for the DAO release. Thanks for watching.